On the show a week ago, we spoke about capitalism on trial. Our panelists offered a number of specific areas that need to be addressed to fix America's economic system. Mort Zuckerman, the editor of U.S. News and World Report, said we need to start training people to fill the jobs that are available today.
There's a whole mismatch in terms of the number of people coming out looking for jobs and the qualifications that people need for jobs, particularly those who are educated, who particularly in the world of science and technology. There are shortages of people. There are literally millions of open jobs.
And there are. Manpower Group found that 47% of U.S. companies that were having trouble filling specific jobs did complain about a lack of skills within the pool of applicants, and many of those are technical or scientific jobs. But here's what else the companies said. 52% complained that applicants were looking for more pay, which I think has been going on since the beginning of time. 35% cited a lack of experience. That's a tricky one in a tough job market because you need a job to get experience. Bob Herbert from the New York, a senior fellow at Demos and former columnist for the New York Times. Bob, you mentioned a few minutes ago that there's a perfect capitalist fix to the skills gap problem. Schools which make money should be educating them properly, and companies should be paying them properly. How do we deal with that?
Well, what I think is that we have a much bigger problem in this country with regards to employment than most people are recognizing, and that our public officials are willing to say. What we really need to do would require a really long period of huge investments. We would need to rebuild America's infrastructure, and we would need to fix our education system so that many more Americans are getting four-year degrees and higher. This would require investments that apparently are not going to be made in this period of austerity that we're in now. But it's that combination of education and rebuilding the infrastructure that provides a platform for creating new industries that create millions of more jobs for the future. We are not doing it. We're not even having a real conversation about that.
So on one level, while our viewers are watching this, and hopefully the idea is to spur better political debate so that our elected officials and those running for office can start to give us some specific ideas and plans about how we will better educate people. For the viewers watching us who can only make a decision about their own families, maybe their own kid going into school, Anthony, what do you advise someone then who worked so hard to get their kid into school, kid signs up, and at that point it's a free-for-all? We don't really know why we're getting that BA and what it's for. What kind of universal skills or universal areas of study that will get them employed are useful?
They should know, they should do what they love, do what they want to do, because we also know in labor economics very clearly that if you don't like what you do, you're not going to be any good at it. But the other dictum here is that you should know what kind of job opportunities and careers, usually what kinds of occupations a particular major will lead you toward. And there are huge differences. If you major in petroleum engineering, you'll make $120,000 a year. If you get a counseling degree and work in a social service agency, you'll make $30,000 a year. And the differences in employment are huge. And it isn't just the level of education. If you decide to become an architect in this economy, you're in trouble. The unemployment rate is 11.3%, and the long-term projections are that it'll stay above 10 because of the collapse in construction and finance. So you need to ask the people in your program what's happening to the people that graduated last year.
But the danger here is that you're looking years ahead and trying to decide what's going to make a big payoff for your college education. If we went back a few years and you talked about kids coming out of architectural schools, we would have said, well, that's a great field to be in because the housing industry is booming. You need to design these buildings, homes, businesses, and that sort of thing. So you have to be really careful when you're doing that. So what do
you do then? You make a good point, but what do you do? For people whose only control over this is them and their kids and what they study or what they retrain into, bringing it down to micro, what decisions can we make? I mean, do we all have to become engineers and accountants and welders like Jonas is saying?
Well, we do know a great deal about the recent past in terms of people's majors and their ability to get jobs and sustain careers, and we know more than most will admit about where the future is. I will guarantee you that if you get a degree that in some way leads you into healthcare, whether it starts with biology or radiology, that you're going to be employable over the next decade. The same with computers, business services, the same with education, incidentally, because of the huge glut of baby boom retirements. We know more about this than we ever tell young people when they go to college.
Jonas, last word to you on this. Your best advice for folks who are looking to sort of take control and know that they can be employable for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years.
I think that the conversation needs to be about being work-ready as opposed to being graduate-ready. And just as the conversation that we just listened to, we think that the obvious gaps that we're now seeing and that we can really project pretty far into the future should give a very good guideline to those people that are planning for their future and their careers. And at the same time as you specialize in something, you are going to be wanting to build a platform of critical thinking and problem-solving ability and those kinds of skills that eventually will also be transferable between different fields.
Thanks to all of you, and we will remember Bob Herbert's point that while we can all try and solve our own problems, this actually is a problem that needs to be solved at higher levels about what we're doing for our society and how we're preparing them for the workplace of the future. Thanks to all of you. Jonas Priesing is the president of the Americas of the Manpower Group. Bob Herbert is a senior fellow at Demos. And